like to call to order the Goose Creek's, oh, sorry. Like to call the order of the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustee meeting at 6:06 p.m. Mr. Copy, was the meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
And is there a quorum?
There is, yes.
President Laredo, school board members, Dr. O'Brien. The opening exercise for the October 7th, 2019 board meeting will be presented by students from Harlem Elementary School. We will begin the opening ceremonies with the prayer led by Ricky Clem. Everyone, please rise.
Please bow your head and pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and thank you for all the people who are present at our meeting tonight. We ask a special blessing on our students as they lead our opening exercises tonight. We ask you to lead, guide, and direct the board as we make important decisions that will form the focus of our school district in days to come. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. The pledges will be led by Haley Gray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The Harlem Creek.
Thanks, Haley.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, perfect.
The following students will perform the song, Give Us Hope. With us tonight is Carla Rowe de Leon, Yureli Castanon, Haley Gray, Amy Castanon, Zena Cruz, Vivian Martinez, Yasmin Mesa, Jordan Sagrado, Dustin Aguayo, Jaslyn Wise, and Griffin Baldonado. The students are under the direction of music teacher Mr. Creeks and principal Mrs. Betty Baca.
We'll say the Harlem Creed. In our school, we are kind, we are honest, we give compliments, we laugh a lot, we make mistakes, we have big dreams, we work hard, every student matters, every moment counts. We are Harlem.
How y'all doing, guys? I'm Mr. Creeks. I just want to say really quickly, very proud of these guys here. These are my 2019 honors choir, and I just hope that they impress you as much as they impress me. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Creeps. And Harlem Elementary, if we have any parents or family members in the room of these children, could you please stand up and also be recognized? Thank you so much for sharing your children's talents with us today.
Our first recognition for the evening is a huge thank you to Walmart Import Distribution Center for donating 110,808 supply items to the Goose Creek CISD Education Foundation. These items will benefit the students of Goose Creek, which includes topper erasers, mechanical pencils, zip binders, durable white binders, and scissors. Here with us tonight is Steve Byford, the General Manager of Walmart IDC, and with him is Erica Foster, our Director for the Education Foundation. If you guys would come up, we'd love to get a picture. We asked him to bring all those items, but he said it was a little too much for today.
My name is Steve Byford. I'm the general manager at the distribution center. All I did was ensure that we was able to donate some of these supplies. I think the real rewards and accolades need to go to all the teachers and all the faculty that of the great work you guys do with those students. So thank you for what you all do. Outstanding.
Our next recognition will be completed by Mr. Eloy Chapa, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. O'Brien, and members of the board. Our motto in Goose Creek is, "Here we grow giants." This evening, it is my extreme pleasure to recognize a giant in our presence. Over the last 3 years, this giant has saved Goose Creek CISD over $394,000 through thoughtful restructuring of programs and health benefits. At the same time, she has also reallocated over $37,000 from our third-party administrator back into the district's wellness budget. Most recently, through her countless hours of research and strong partnership with Next Level Urgent Care, Goose Creek CISD was able to open up a Goose Creek Wellness Clinic, which is providing quality health care for all of our district employees at no cost. Please help me recognize a giant alumnus of Ross S. Sterling High School and a giant with our employees, Ms. Stephanie Myers, our benefits coordinator.
Next, we have a public hearing.
Yes, sir. We have Dr. Duarte will be presenting our target improvement plans.
Tonight we are hosting our public hearing to review and approve ultimately our targeted improvement plans for identified campuses. With all of the changes that we've been experiencing with accountability and our Texas Education Code, for campuses that have received a D in a domain but have an overall rating of a C or higher, according to the Texas Education Code, we are required to develop improvement plans that are approved by the school board. We have 2 campuses that fall in this category. We have San Jacinto Elementary, who is a B campus, but in domain 1, they scored a 67. So in one of the domains, they did have a D. What you're going to see here is in 2018, they were at a 60. 2019, we're at a 67. So we're continuing to see that progress. Our second campus that was identified is Asheville Smith Elementary. They had a D in domain 1 and domain 2. Domain 1 in 2019, they went up from a 64 to a 69, and domain 2, they remained at a 67. So both campuses very close to getting to that C score. Asheville Smith had an overall rating of a C. Now for campuses that were rated a D overall, we are required to also develop a targeted improvement plan, and these plans also must be approved by the school board. We have 2 campuses that scored a D. De Zavala Elementary had an overall score of a 62. They also had the same score in 2018. The second campus is Highlands Elementary. They had a score of a 70 in 2018. They dropped to a 68 in 2019. But what you're going to see is it's not just Highlands Elementary. Hopper Primary, because they do not have any tested grade levels, are paired with Highlands Elementary. So whatever score Highlands Elementary receives, Hopper would also receive. So in your packets, you received 5 targeted intervention plans that were submitted for your approval. The district followed the Effective Schools framework that was developed by the Texas Education Agency. And what we did was we took our existing action plan template and merged it with what the state has provided, and that's what you'll be approving tonight, we're hoping. So the first campus we're going to start with is San Jacinto Elementary. And what we do through the process that they go through is they look at what are the strengths of the campuses and what are the overall areas of need that we've identified. So for San Jacinto Elementary, they improved in 6 out of 8 subject areas across grade levels. And that was that jump from that 60 to 69. Their writing scores improved from 35 to 59. We saw their domain 1 score improve. Math at the meets level showed growth and the master's level. And we saw science master's level improvement. Areas of focus that we've identified is they had a decline in 3rd grade scores overall, both reading and math. Their domain 1 score they recognize is a D, which is not acceptable for that campus. Reading, they're finding, is performing lower than math across their campus, and they need to see an increase in those higher performance levels, the meets and the masters. Within the campus plans, we asked for them to identify three SMART goals, 3 areas that they will focus on that we will hold them accountable and evaluate them on at the end of the year. So San Jacinto's first SMART goal was by May 2020. San Jacinto Elementary will increase their meets scores in all STAR tested areas by 10%. So every assessment that they're looking at showing that improvement across the areas. What we also asked them to do is go through a process of looking at what was the root cause. Because until we can identify the root cause, we won't know exactly what we need to target within our key practices. So when they looked at their data, what they identified was we saw some low rigor, low level questioning, limited feedback, lack of student ownership or engagement in learning, and the students not performing or reading on grade level. So we were hitting that approaches. What we weren't seeing is those extensions to get those higher level performances on the campus. So some of the key practices that you saw in their plan addressing this first goal was increasing student ownership in their learning, really looking at effective feedback for our students, working with our teachers to grow their collective efficacy through the PLC process. During planning, prior to instruction, looking at appropriate interventions for students at all levels within those targeted learning objectives, and utilizing rigor, relevance, and depth of knowledge strategies to improve their student achievement. Their second SMART goal is San Jacinto Elementary will increase the meets grade level standards and will meet the target for all students in the area of reading. So now they're focusing on the level of meets with a target in the area of reading, and that's because they've been identified in all students for targeted improvement, and so that's an area of focus. What they're finding on the campus was in the population, all students on reading, it's knowledge of how to monitor student progress. Again, we're looking at some lower rigor, socioeconomic status, high percentage of EL students, lack of oral language development, and the need to connect to our families on the importance of what we're looking at in regards to reading and oral language. So we have that collaborative process between home and school. They're focusing PD on phonology, making sure that we're focusing on that in our win time. They've got an early morning reading club that they're providing support on targeted specific students. And they've got reading tutors that are providing interventions, and we're using the LLI program. The third goal across the district for all campuses is addressing attendance, because we know if our students are not in school, it's creating gaps within their learning. So they're looking at increasing their overall attendance rate to 97%. They see a decline in their attendance rate, and so their focus is looking at family involvement, parental understanding on the importance of elementary school, and low pre-K attendance rates. And what we've looked at is research tells us when students are absent consistently at the lower grades, it creates more gaps and difficulty in the area of reading. So they're ensuring awareness of their attendance rate among their students, teachers, and families. They have a leadership team, and they'll make calls or home visits, just making sure that they're providing support if there's assistance that's needed to make sure students are in school. And they're continuing to provide a supportive and nurturing environment where students want to come to school, that they have a sense of belonging. So they're working with PBIS, they're working with social emotional support, and they're getting children involved in those extracurricular activities so that they have that connection. Our next campus that we're looking at is Asheville Smith Elementary. Some of the growth that we experienced this past year was they saw an increase in reading across the campus in all areas, at the approaches, at the meets, and at the master's level. This past year, they had a focus on reading. 4th grade writing, they saw improvement. 5th grade science, they saw increases at the upper levels. And their 3rd grade math scores increased. Areas of need they saw some drops in 4th and 5th grade math. Student growth, that progress from one year to the next, they've got to focus on. And some of the subpopulations need support to meet those state expected standards that we see in Domain 3. At Asheville Smith, their SMART goal is that students in grades 3, 4, and 5 are going to meet and exceed the STAR math test at a minimum of 45%. So they're looking at the meet level, not the approaches, so that upper level of performance. What they found is that in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the students are unable to articulate their understanding of content and concepts through verbalization. So that clarity that the students would need to understand what they're learning and the purpose of it. They also have a problem of practice. They're one of our instructional rounds campuses, and so we're providing information to them based on observations and teacher feedback, a focus on student talk. And so that's some of the data and the feedback they're receiving. So their key practices: students are going to engage in math vertically aligned lessons. So they're going to have that common language, that academic vocabulary in the area of math. They're going to look at the depth and complexity within the grade level planning and ensure that supplemental resources are available and that they're using research-based strategies. They are conducting number talks because they want to increase the students' academic vocabulary and understanding, and they are collaborating. They're looking at data, and they're talking about best practices in their PLCs. Their second goal is looking at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, reaching a master's level in reading of 20%. So we're looking at meets in math, and now we're looking at masters in reading because that's where they saw their growth last year. And the data indicated that enrichment opportunities have not been a focus. We've been looking at getting kids to pass. Now they need to look at the higher levels. So their key practices are students are going to engage in vertically aligned lessons to include vocabulary, again, looking at depth and complexity, resources, and research-based strategies. We've got math, science, and social studies instruction are going to embed the 4 essentials in the area of reading, supporting cognitive methodology and questioning techniques. And then they've created half reading groups in kinder and 1st grade to support additional guided reading support. So instead of 22 or 24 students, they've got 12 students that are in these reading groups. Goal number 3 is that they're going to increase the students' attendance to 97%, focusing on families' awareness of how attendance is impacting student success and how it's creating academic gaps. They are implementing parent conferences with students who have excessive absences. They've got a communities and schools partner on their campus, as well as an attendance specialist, so they're monitoring the data and contacting parents and supporting families. And they are hosting parent informational sessions during their family nights. De Zavala Elementary, some of the strengths that we're finding is staff members are motivated. They want to ensure that De Zavala makes that significant growth. The campus did experience some pockets of growth. For example, their ELs in the area of 4th grade reading improved from 13 to 43%, and their attendance rate fell in quartile 1 within their campus comparison group. Now, areas of need, they have a focus on growth in all content areas, looking at meets and masters, emphasis on approaches for this year. Their first SMART goal is that all tests improve passing rates at the approaches level with a focus on targeted areas. So they've identified the sub-pops that they were identified as a targeted support campus. They found that there was lack of classroom management and support to teachers, which led to student and teacher gaps. So their focus is looking at the inexperienced teachers and providing adequate behavioral and academic support so our teachers grow along with our students. What they've done currently is they've introduced their behavioral expectations. They've supported teacher implementation, classrooms, hallways, all areas of the school, and we've heard positive feedback on the culture of the campus and the behavior of students. They are incorporating research-based practices, ensuring intervention and enrichments occur, and they're implementing student reflection pages so students are able to articulate what their learning is. Their second goal is to improve student growth measure in areas of reading and math as measured by Domain 2. So this is all about school progress. And they found that staff and students had a fixed mindset, and that tends to make it difficult for students to grow academically. So teachers are going to set goals for students and themselves, and they're going to monitor to determine that course of action. We've got some key practices. The teachers will observe each other to improve the learning process. So we're going to have some peer learning. They're focusing intently on Tier 1 instruction, and they're conducting vertical team meetings. And then they are looking at increasing their attendance rate to 96.5%. And they were ranked in quartile 1 last year at 96%. They don't want to lose that, so they're going to continue to look at the growth. They know that part of the problem is focusing on early intervention, so that'll be an area that they'll look at. They have regular attendance checks, they're calling parents, they're providing timely school-to-parent communication regarding absences. They have an attendance assistant who's helping monitor the data, and they have teachers developing classroom attendance incentives for our students. Next, we have Highlands Elementary. Some of the strengths we experienced last year is we saw masters increase in 4th grade math by 10%. Their writing increased approaches by 15%. 3rd grade masters and 5th grade math, their ELs are performing at passing standards of 92%. They do know that their ELA and math at the meets and masters level decreased. Science has decreased over the past 3 years, and their TELPAS composite growth score is below the state goal. What we're finding is a challenge for Highlands Elementary is Hopper is scoring very high on TELPAS, progress or growth, and then we get to 2nd through 5th grade, which is all computer-based, where 1st grade is teacher selected rating. We don't have that match or alignment between 1st and 2nd grade, and so that pulled Highlands down. So they've got a lot of collaboration going on there. So the SMART goal is 100% of Highlands Elementary teachers are going to track academic growth, focusing on 4th and 5th grade in math and reading. That's aligned to Domain 2. And then those are going to impact their interventions and enrichment. What we found is the campus did not have a prescriptive approach to address enrichment and intervention. And so that's why that's an area of focus. So their PLCs are looking at understanding student expectations, analyzing data. They are coaching and modeling for effective Tier 1 instruction, and they are working on the viable curriculum and creating formative assessments so that they can make informed decisions and focus on that enrichment and intervention. Our second goal is to increase the percentage of meets and masters by 15%. What they found is the instruction needs to match the level of rigor defined by the TEKS and aligned to the state assessment. So they didn't reach those high levels of rigor in Tier 1 instruction, which is why we saw that decline in the meets and masters level. So their SOAR time, they're focusing on enrichment, not just intervention. They have their at-risk interventionist, and they are working with groups who just missed that meets level to help push those kids over to higher levels. And they're looking at their language and content objective implementation to ensure that our students are connecting to the learning objectives. All about teacher clarity, students understanding what it is they need to know. Our third SMART goal is to increase their attendance by 0.5%. Their root cause is they did not have early intervention strategies on campus, and so they're going to implement those. And their focus is to educate staff and parents about attendance. During back to school and open house, they're going to have attendance committee meetings, and they're going to have student data binders tracking attendance. Apologize. Hopper Primary, their strengths are their universal screener data showing students are reading at grade level. Their TELPAS yearly composite growth score is 86%, and they have CBA data that demonstrates student success. Thank you. What we talked about was that TELPAS data is not transferring to Highlands Elementary, and they need to focus on that alignment between first and second grade. So Hopper Primary, their goal is 90% of their kinder and first grade students, 80% of our second grade students will be at or above grade level. This is Hopper Primary goal. They don't have second graders, but their focus is we've got to connect our first and second grade. We've got to work together. So we're really excited to see this collaboration. What they find is students are struggling to take ownership of their own ability to read independently. And so when they are also an instructional round school, brand new this year, and so their focus is on students struggling to take ownership and looking at fundamental reading strategies across content areas to see that level of success we want our students to achieve. They're going to determine essential standards K through 2, again between Hopper and Highlands. First and second grade teachers across campuses are going to observe each other in guided reading. And the at-risk interventionist from Hopper is coming to Highlands second grade to continue the support and services they've been providing students. The listening proficiency level of all first grade EL students as measured through TELPAS in second grade will improve as a result of teachers' increased use of technology. We see a discrepancy in the number of students in second grade advancing. So we're looking at online versus teacher interpretation, and they're hosting student-led conferences, working with our bilingual department. They're going to have vertical alignment meetings with Highlands, and they're going to have collaborative teams who are going to be rating students in kinder first and second. So we have that inter-rater reliability. And then we're looking at pre-KK and first grade will achieve 96% attendance. To be honest, Hopper is our lowest attendance rate across the district. And it's usually our little ones. And so there's that early intervention that is really important for that campus. So they're going to have weekly attendance reports. They have a KAIS worker and an attendance assistant who's supporting them. And the students are going to use their own personal calendars to track their own attendance so they can monitor themselves. That's that whole self-monitoring piece. And this is, just have to tell you, this is one of our campuses, San Jacinto Elementary, and they do a parade for the kids that are have faithful, good attendance, and they parade through the school, and all the children celebrate them. So they've started that this year also. Those are a shortened version of what you have received, but I think it gives you a really good global overview of the work the campuses have done. We don't only do this with our targeted schools. Every campus provides a targeted intervention plan. We know we can improve everywhere, and so we meet with principals, we talk about them throughout the year, and we monitor. Any questions at this point? And I do have our principals here with me in case you have a specific question.
I'm going to ask the board to hold on to their questions since this is a public hearing until we come to that's an agenda item. Will anybody from the public like to ask any questions? Okay. In that case, I'm closing this public hearing at 6:42 p.m. and reopening until board meeting. Thank you, Dr. Duarte. Next, we have citizens' participation. Ms. Garcia, did anybody sign up? I don't have to read this. Okay, good. Where's my, what's up here? I can't find my, okay. Next, we have approval of minutes. I'm trying to get my screen back up. I'm sorry. Here we go. We have the minutes for September 9th that we're going to take today. Any of you would like to?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 9th as presented.
I second.
A motion by Ms. Woods, seconded by Mr. Poppy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-4. Next, we have discussion on Dr. O'Brien.
Yes, for our superintendent's report this evening, Dr. Duarte will be coming back. I believe this will start a new presentation. So you're on the clock for a separate presentation to present an overview of the 2019-2020 Goose Creek CSD District Improvement Plan and Campus Improvement Plans.
I was wondering if maybe we could get a motion to include it as part of the other one.
I know. I was like, you get a start over?
Mr. Foxworth is the one that requested that.
He currently has the trophy
Yes, he
for
does.
longest prez.
And I could go fast. No.
Not
So
reading that book.
you received a link that has all of this information in it. This would be our district and campus improvement plans. We are presenting those to the board tonight for approval. We kind of walk you through the process that we take to develop these. First, we have all of our goals. We've talked about how our goals are aligned across campuses and with the district. So we look at increasing student achievement, well-balanced and appropriate curriculum, enhanced dropout prevention efforts, safe, positive learning environment, recruiting, developing, and retaining highly qualified staff, parental community partnerships, and technology infrastructure and tools. Our timeline is we do a CNA, and we start that at the end of the year, our comprehensive needs assessment. That drives really what we put in our DIPs and our CIPs. We have those common goals, and then we develop and complete these plans. The plan, the district plan is presented to program directors. They review for accuracy, legal compliance, all of those areas. Our DIP then is reviewed and approved by ILC, which occurred September 26th. Our CIPs are developed and they're reviewed and approved by the instructional leadership teams on each campus. They are submitted to our AEDs and they review them for compliance. And then they are submitted to our board tonight, October 7th, for approval. And if they are approved, they will be posted on our website October 14th. What we do is we just give you some of the highlights. We do an initiative from each campus and a couple for the district. So this year we are piloting our dual language program at 2 elementary campuses. We're starting with kindergarten at Carver and Harlem Elementary. We are providing training and campus support through our principal monthly learning time. And we are developing and implementing a summer early literacy program. We also are conducting our instructional rounds, and the new campuses we have added this year are Carver, Hopper, Victoria Walker, and Gentry Junior School. We are holding our breath because we're going to get a high school next year. Our initiatives, Goose Creek Memorial has asked us to share with you. They're in the process of becoming a site demonstration school for AVID. Their focus is AVID strategies, and they are focusing instruction and targeted skills by incorporating those AVID strategies. Lee High School, they've got a focus on ELA 1 and ELA 2 student performance, looking at approaches, meets, and masters. So they're tracking the data, and the teams are using it to identify struggling students who may need additional support. And this is to ensure that their meets and masters performance increases. Sterling High School has a CCMR focus. So they wanted us to talk about, they're going to have 100% of their seniors complete the Apply Texas application. They're going to increase the percentage of students taking dual credit and advanced placement courses. They're going to make sure seniors are utilizing the College and Career Center. They will be completing comprehensive individualized post-secondary plans, and juniors and seniors will take at least one college prep or entrance exam, and they're going to continue the school day ACT. Impact Early College High School has a focus on parental involvement and education in alignment. They're looking at the parental involvement to focus on the matriculation of our students going into college. Peter E. Highland is partnering with Impact ELA teachers, and they're working on sharing strategies and ideas to increase their English 1 and English 2 scores. It's always challenging when you are the only teacher on a campus that teaches a content and you have no friends to collaborate with, so we have partnered our two smaller schools. Point is really looking at social and emotional well-being, and so they're working with their students on a campaign. The students are going to be writing about social emotional concerns, and they're going to have a mental health art and writing showcase put on by their students. Stewart Career Tech High School is looking at Titan Time, and this is where students are going to keep ahead of their grades. They're also able to create opportunities for clubs, because many of the students aren't able to stay after school, so they're trying to do things within the school day to enhance their campus life. Baytown Junior School is focusing on maximizing the utilization of the block period and ensuring that they're providing meaningful intervention and enrichment. Cedar Bayou, their focus is on college and career readiness, so they are going to be introducing a variety of colleges, encouraging post-secondary enrollment. They're going to study colleges during College and Career Week. They're incorporating AVID into that. Gentry Junior School, they are focusing on student talk, feedback, and questioning. They are after that master's level. They want more students performing at the higher levels. Highlands Junior School, they're targeting first and second year teachers. They want to make sure that they have support and professional development to become successful educators, and they want to retain those high quality teachers on their campus. Horace Mann is looking at student growth in academic language and literacy and building community connections on their campus. Our elementaries, Alamo is continuing to use the PLCs for vertical planning, data disaggregation, staff development. They're utilizing those during conference periods and discussing students and determining best practices. Asheville Smith, their focus is during WIN, their AI time for students and small group instruction. They're going to provide enrichment, specific differentiated interventions in the area of reading and math, and they're focusing on closing the existing performance gap between state and federal targets. Austin, the staff are working on the Apple Teacher Certification. They want to become an Apple Distinguished School. They're running up against Lee High School, and they've got already 13 teachers that have received their certification. Banuelos is focusing on attendance. They're looking at attendance incentives for perfect attendance each 6 weeks. They have snacks that they're giving the class at the snack bar if they spell out perfect attendance. Homerooms are going to compete in bracket competitions each 6 weeks. And their student support teams meet weekly to review data. And then campus teams participated in the Reach Out Walk. Their focus was visiting students who had excessive absences the year before. Bowie is implementing the Fundamental 5 to insist in improving their Tier 1 instruction. Carver has a focus on literacy, and they gave us a list of things that they're going to do and target to impact their literacy. Clark is working on Accountable Talk, and that is our students being able to set their goals and determine how they're going to meet those goals and articulate what it is that they're doing in those classrooms. It's also a problem of practice for their instructional rounds, so they're getting a lot of data throughout the year, and they'll be working on their rounds momentum plan to address those areas. Crockett is utilizing PLCs to facilitate data meetings and professional learning. That's going to enhance teaching and learning. They are after that A. De Zavala, they're providing a safe and secure learning environment utilizing positive behavior academic support model, Keystone, Alveus. They're looking at PBIS teams meeting monthly. They're reviewing their data, and they are providing incentives to students who are able to model that behavior that we want to see. Harlem, professional development will be offered to staff, both teachers and paras. So they're looking at El Saber for the DOK training, LLI training, and behavior training. Highlands is looking at the grit, growth, and character traits, GRACE, and they are expecting all their students to show growth, and their staff is committed to moving their campus forward. Hopper is focusing on improving the transition of early literacy development. A lot of what we talked about in their plan you see here on this initiative, with the last bullet where the principal is going to go over and meet with second grade bilingual students and set up goals and monitor their performance since they are connected to their primary principal. Lamar is going to continue with their second year of instructional rounds. Their focus is on critical thinking skills. So they're going to have internal and external rounds. They're also looking at attendance, and they're hoping for 98% or higher. And they've got a lot of strategies. Students are charting their attendance. They've got attendance contracts. They've got recognition and incentives provided by PTO and their partner in education, CRCU. San Jacinto is providing additional before and after school programs. We heard that in their targeted improvement plan, getting students engaged, wanting to come to school every day and building those relationships. They're doing that through a lot of the club opportunities, coding, STEM, robotics, art, writing, anything that they can find that interests a student. Travis is implementing a campus-wide independent reading program. They're calling it Readers Are Leaders, and that encourages daily independent reading at home, focusing on building fluency and comprehension. Students are going to read at home with their parents, and then they turn in their reading logs. Victoria Walker is promoting high attendance school-wide. They're using incentive programs, ongoing communication, and implementation of the student support team process. Attendance is a priority. They have seen a decrease in attendance over the last 3 years, and they absolutely want to turn that around. And that was one initiative from each campus, and I know you've reviewed these plans. I don't know if you have any specific questions at this time, but I hope not.
On page 800.
I got it here.
800 what? 800 what? Hang on.
Dr. Gordy, I just wanted to commend you for meeting with each and every campus principal, going over the campus improvement plans and the targeted improvement plans. I can say with confidence that you've coached and guided them along with the AEDs on a good path moving forward for those campuses that need the change that we need and that you've identified. So I think you can speak with confidence as well that those principals have developed good plans. So.
Can we ask comments or questions about the targeted as well as the other on this, or do you want us to wait till it comes as an agenda?
No, it's fine. I've got both here.
Does anybody have? I have a few, but does anybody have?
You go first.
I usually go last. Go ahead. Do you have some?
No.
Oh, okay. My first question is for Days of Allah, number 3. You said the attendance, that teachers would have attendance incentives. Is that being led by administration, or how do those incentives work? Because I'm assuming that it's not coming out of the teachers' pocketbooks, whatever they're doing as incentives.
But the teachers are not paying for it. We provide those incentives for the teachers. So it'll either come out of some of our C&I budget funding or the campus budgets.
But there is some direction from the admin, or as far as what, okay, great. That was all for Days of Allah. Sorry, Mr. Cobb. My second one's for Hopper. Hopper, you said they were student-led conferences, but not by the little kids? Your student-led conferences, are they being led by the little children?
Yes, they are. They
and they're talking about how they can grow, and the listening and the speaking skills are the ones that we're trying to target right now.
Oh, so they're conferencing with their teacher one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Okay.
And they're also going to be conferencing with their parents. Once
okay. I saw, yeah, that's awesome.
Conducted, then they will be conferencing with the parents, so they can tell them, this is my goal, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, this is what I'm doing.
So it begins with the teacher, and then sometimes I know you invite central office to the campuses to have that student practice asking us questions or presenting to us their plans, and then they hone those skills before having their parents come.
Exactly, and the goals are set as, okay, if I'm learning about the listening, okay, I'm at the beginning level, the middle, the intermediate, advanced, advanced high, and that's what they're trying to reach. They're set up their own goals.
I also really, I want to commend you on the children tracking, the students tracking their own attendance. When our kids see that kind of self-awareness, they become make sure that the parents know I need to go to school. So I think that's an excellent plan.
And they do it individually, pre-K all the way to first grade. They have their own little booklet, and every day, if I'm here, I'm putting my sticker. And at the end, if they complete every month, they get rewarded for their attendance.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
And the last one, I'm sorry, is just a comment. I want to comment to another school. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. And it's to San Jacinto, Ms. McAdams. First of all, I see your Facebook posts your school does every week on the attendance, which I don't know if you're the only school doing it, but I think that's a really good idea, because when you put it out on blast, as the kids say, you know, the parents, my kid doesn't go there anymore, and my kid had pretty good attendance, but it kind of made me like, whoa, I feel a little responsible, you know, and so I think that's a really great idea. Makes the community aware, especially that community in the historic West End. It makes us very aware of how we are doing as a community to support the school. But I think this is something else that I think is a very important thing for our students. One of the things that as a high school teacher, I've kind of been against, but I understand the reasoning is we always push our kids out. You know, it's time to go home, get out. And a lot of times the kids don't want to leave, you know, and I think having before and after school programs are a really strong way to solidify that sense of community. When I was a child at San Jacinto, not so long ago, we had an after school program. And in that after school program, we had soccer. Well, the classes I took were soccer, guitar lessons, reading, art. There were all these different things that that we as students were exposed to that I think are extremely important. It makes the kids know that this is an extension of their home. And I just wanted to say thank you for providing those opportunities for the kids. And especially thank you for providing that on Facebook so the community knows exactly. And I know that probably all the elementaries and all the schools do that. But I know that I see that chart and I'm like, uh-oh, I feel like I'm in trouble.
And no, they all don't. That is something that Ms. McAdams started at her campus.
Well, I think it's great. Thank you so much for doing that for our kids.
And Mr. Laredo is in a band to this day as a result of that experience.
Might be your birthday more often. Ma'am?
Come home to these.
I wish. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Duarte.
Is it Mr. Foxworth, are we okay, or do we need to ask more questions? Just kidding.
Keep the time rolling.
I was trying. Next we have action items. First, go ahead, Dr. Bryan.
Our first action item proposal is consideration of foreign trade zone agreement with Access World LLC. And I have with us Kevin O'Hanlon, Margie Grimes. If you have any questions for them about that you did receive the information in your packet.
I only have one question. Is this a routine foreign trade zone agreement? And does it include all the stored products within the facility?
Thank you for being here, Mr. O'Hanlon.
Thanks for having me.
I think you probably heard the question, just asking, is it a routine agreement similar to other foreign trade zone agreements? Is there any variations or differences?
Ms. Grimes, can you get us mic, please?
Turn it, you gotta push the button. There you go. It's on.
There it is, it's green.
Magic
It's a
Magic
little
Hacker.
better than a routine agreement. The routine agreements that we've come to see end up doing a 50-50 split of the net benefit, basically, to the company. In this case, given the nature of the enterprise, the primary objective of Access World was to provide FTZs so they could create an exemption from tariffs. Tariffs are, as you've heard about them in the news, they're somewhere between 10 and 30% of the value. Consider, if you will, property tax is typically about 1 to 1.5% of the value. So the benefit by keeping this in a tax-free status for tariff purposes is substantial. As a result, the company agreed with the county, and we just got signed off from the college that they give them 100% rebate. So we asked for that too, and they gave it to us. So this is as good as it gets.
Thank you.
Basically, what we do is that we, as you're aware, when you put property value on, the state sends you less money. So what we're going to be able to do under this is take the property value off. The state's going to send you more money because the values are down. Then the company's going to send you a little on the side about what the values would have been. Now, this is different as well, and I need to point this out. Normally on 313 agreements and normally on FTZ agreements, we are dealing with the company, and the company is directly going to pay us the payment in lieu of taxes. In this case, Access World does not own the property. They are what amounts to an international version of a bonded warehouse, and so they do not own the inventory. So what this agreement does is it, under the agreement, in exchange for us doing a letter of non-opposition, Access World is going to require all of their tenants in this property, that are people that are storing goods there, to execute the agreement. That agreement is attached. We drafted it first just for us in the early version. The version that's here tonight, the college decided to join that, so it's going to be for them and possibly the county as well by the time we're done. So they're going to require all of their customers to enter into this agreement to pay this. They get the tariff benefit. In exchange, they pay the state property tax, basically, or the local property taxes levied collectively by the political subdivisions. So it's a little bit different. It kind of works the same way. It's a little better deal, but it's not directly, it's indirectly with the company. But given the nature of the enterprise, if we don't do it this way, Access World themselves are going to pay taxes because this doesn't qualify for 313, the warehouse facility. They're going to pay regular property taxes on that itself, and they don't own the property, so they're not going to pay taxes on that. So this is as good as we could get. I think we drafted the agreement fairly tightly. It's been reviewed by Lee College's people as well. They're on board. I suspect the county may end up joining too by the time it's done.
Thank you, Mr. Ohana. That was helpful.
Thank you, sir.
Anything to add, Margie? All right. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. I've got copies of those.
I need a motion, please.
Move we approve the agreement as presented.
I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Mr. Poppy. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-4, 0 against. Next, we have consideration of consent agenda.
and administration brings before the board this evening for consent agenda. Number 1, donation from Walmart. Number 2, district and campus improvement plans as previously presented. Number 3, approval of targeted improvement plans for identified campuses. Number 4, MOU between Goose Creek CISD and Lee College for dual enrollment. Number 5, grow your own grant. Number 6, adoption of resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H members in Chambers County and Harris County and consideration of them as adjunct faculty agreement members. Number 7, adoption of the resolution authorizing employee pay during the emergency closure of the district. Number 8, approve the construction manager at risk, or CMAR, evaluation rankings and selection of and to delegate authority to the superintendent designee to negotiate and to approve the contract and subsequent guaranteed maximum price with Pogue Construction for the construction of junior school number 6. Number 9, approve the RFQ evaluation rankings and selection of, delegate authority to the superintendent designee to negotiate and to approve the contract with Pfluger to perform the design and administrate the construction of Stewart Career Tech High School Phase 4. Number 10, TASB localized policy manual updates 112 and 113. Number 11, board policy GKD local community relations non-school use of school facilities. And number 12, tax refunds as presented.
Would anybody like to take any of these separately? I'd like to pull number 11, please. And I do have a comment about number 8 and 9, but we can take them as part of the motion.
Just number 11?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I move we approve consent agenda items 1 through 10 and 12.
I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Klein, second by Mr. Poppy. Does anybody have any discussion? I only have a comment about 8 and 9. I did ask Mr. O'Brien to start sending some of the architect beforehand, the way that the scores came in. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-4-0 against. Number 11. I need clarification on exactly what kind of events are we talking about, or what are we renting out the, let me find it.
So it's
The schools.
page 122. Ms. Steele, Mr. Chopper here, potentially to discuss that, or Dr. Price?
Mr. Bollinger, I'll stand in for.
So when an entity asks to rent a facility,
Yes.
and what it's saying, if I read it correctly, it meant that they don't necessarily have to rent with benefit to the students, correct? Like, for example,
Here's the way it goes. We have some little league teams. Some of our students play in those leagues, and some don't. But they rent the facilities to use the fields for their games.
okay,
So that's just saying that they can rent, and they do make a profit at some of their games. So it's just saying that they can rent for profit and for nonprofit, whether some of our students are in the organization or not.
and this, go ahead.
So some of those entities that are doing this are for-profit entities?
Correct. They may charge an entry fee.
No, that's not for profit. For-profit entity is separate from a nonprofit profiting for the purpose of its nonprofit. So what I understand here.
The scary thing is I understood that.
I did too. I get what you're saying. Don't stop because you're on a roll.
Right. What this change in here is meaning is that a for-profit entity can now rent a facility from the school district for the purposes of whatever it is to make a profit, so long as our district students would receive a direct benefit from that. So they then should have to turn around and make a donation to that school or that district or this district in order to qualify. But that's a for-profit entity. You didn't change anything under here about nonprofit entities.
Right, one, you're gonna be getting a fee, the other one you may not. As a nonprofit, you may not charge the fee.
Right.
To my understanding, that is correct, but if they are, we do have some entities that come in and they use the basketball facilities for tournaments. Then they turn around and make a donation to that
But
campus.
as far as I know, most of the ones that have done this so far are nonprofit entities.
So like Little League is a nonprofit.
Right.
Right.
Do we have any for-profit entities that are doing that?
So Nike hosts a
big
Southeast
time.
Texas basketball tournament. If Nike were to come in, they could. And the entry fee that I was referring to were large entry fees, like $500 per campus, and that's over 32 schools. You can see where it would add up 16.
Right.
Wait, but, okay, so
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. I mean, if we have, but most of those entities, when they do that, it's their nonprofit part of their
Yes.
organization that winds up doing that. I mean, now, if we, have Chevron wants to come in and throw a big party and charge or make money, or whether they do or not, they're a for-profit entity.
Correct.
That would be using a campus facility, and we are allowing that to happen
Correct.
here.
That-
But then Chevron's going to benefit our students in the process.
Exactly.
In some way or another.
And
That's how
And I think that's why it was opened up for that.
Well, I don't think it's.
Would they be required to make a donation?
That's not specified here.
It's not, but it's also is specified that we determine the schedule.
The fee structure would benefit the students. Let's go back a few years. I don't know if we still do this, but a local dance studio rented out Sterling Auditorium. The
And we
dance
still have
studio is a for-profit business. But we had kids that went there, but we benefited from what they paid for the facility.
Right, they
And that would
rented
fall
our
within-
facility to have a performance, and that's a for-profit, renting our facility, but there would have to be something set up through the district for the students to receive a direct benefit from the organization's use of the facility.
Will the
That's
fee
how-
structure become an administrative policy? Or does that need to?
Yes, it says that I will set up that fee schedule.
Okay, and that's how I read that, but.
Well, I think like you said, the Nike, I think,
It's already actually in place for the nonprofits.
Right,
We
it's already
probably
in place for
extend that same
nonprofit.
fee schedule unless we see a need to change it. But you pay so much per hour for a police officer to be present, for a custodian to be present for. So there are already fee structures in place. Unless we see that those are not equitable for the use of the building, then we would modify those if need be.
so currently right now they can't, right? The
Well,
for-profit.
what you're referencing should not have happened according to prior policy.
Correct.
So we're making the policy
we're fixing
where
our
it reads practice.
Right.
So it's probably a missed update. I noticed the policy's 5 years old, so I'm speculating that sometime over the last 5 years, we could have or should have made that updated change, which we're doing at this time.
I think that's what the.
And this is not under your part, Dr. Price? You said this is Mr. Bollinger's?
Yes, this was Mr. Bollinger, and I believe he was making these changes, but I was kind of,
I just feel a little different about it because I don't know who the profit companies would be.
Well, we have the right to refuse anyone that we feel
Right.
shouldn't be coming within our facilities.
Right, you do as administration, but as board, I don't know how I feel that, I'm not saying I don't trust you or your judgment, Dr. O'Brien's or Mr. Bollinger's, but we're not always going to be here, and neither are you. And I don't want to set up a future board to where somebody might not have the purest of intentions, and that's what I'm worried about. Nonprofits, I'm not worried about too much.
Okay.
It's the for-profits that I'm worried about. Now, dance studio, because the kids are involved directly, but if there's not a child involved in a program, whatever it is that wants to rent the facility, I don't have a problem with nonprofits or companies that use our children to better themselves, to better the kids. But I do have an issue with private companies who doesn't have our kids in it and use our facilities. That's my only concern.
I understand.
Can we would anybody be okay with tabling this until Mr. Bollinger can be maybe at our next meeting?
Well, they're meeting in 2 weeks.
Right. And plus, we'd have more board members. I think this is something that all board members should have a chance to maybe vote on.
Administration will be happy to suspend the vote on this item and bring it back to the future board agenda.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have future board agenda items, board training, and board meetings. Does anybody have a future board agenda item?
Policy GKD.
Well, I do want to.
October 28th, we have our Team of 8 training.
October 28th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that's our most recent or upcoming.
I would like to have at some point something to do with our board goals. We need an update. I think we need to update our board goals.
I think it's scheduled for once per quarter. So Mr. Bollinger will be doing that in the next strategic planning update. He does it on schedule once per quarter.
We haven't.
So every 3 months. He presented first this summer.
I think that we need to sit down as a board and re-update our board goals. These are a couple years old. So
that would have to be a part of the strategic plan because it all ties together. Right.
Yeah, I'd like to have a workshop.
Absolutely.
When would be the next time the quarters are coming up? It's here, right?
I don't have the date off the top of my head.
And when we have that, I would like for the administration to be in and sit down so they can give input. Because sometimes I feel like the goals they sound good. We're coming up with them. I think it's important that the administration,
Absolutely.
Be here. One of the things that I'd like to focus on is, for example, facilities long-term plan, especially with the amount of growth happening in Baytown and Highlands, and in the next few years. The other thing I'd like for us to work on is the creation of a calendar.
Annual calendar.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
With just key things that are on there, as well as when the board members are meeting with us for agenda setting work meeting.
Okay. Be happy to prepare those for the board for consideration.
I would also like to talk about at some point, either at a workshop or here, regarding high school schedules and junior high schedules as well for next year.
Survey results are back from the community and the staff, and are they on the schedule to be presented the 28th, or is that November?
That's school start times. Are you talking about school start times or the actual schedule?
No, the scheduling of classes and all that.
That's to 28th.
Are we meeting on the 21st and having Team of 8 on the 28th?
That's correct.
Okay.
We're meeting on the 21st.
You're confusing me.
Yes.
I did confuse you. That was my fault.
We have a meeting on the 21st.
It's like the olden days.
Remember those?
3 meetings in a month.
Except it's at 6. Just so you know, Jess.
Whose idea was that? Oh, that was a future item, was discussing meeting time.
Do you want to add it to the agenda or to the list?
Of things that we should discuss. We could do that during Team of 8, maybe.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good.
When we're all here.
Yes.
I'm holding my breath.
And that's all we have for that. Next, we have closed meeting. Okay, the board will now recess into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Section 551, 071, 072, 073, 074, 075, 076, 082, 083, 084, and 087. No action will be taken while the board is closed meeting. It is 7:22 p.m. Time is now 8:36. This meeting will resume into open session. No decisions were made while the board was in closed session. Dr. O'Brien.
Administration would like to bring before the Board of Trustees for consideration of personnel approving the elections as presented. Christina Bond, teacher at Sterling. Jatara Hunter, teacher at Gentry. Lee Magliolo, teacher at Carver. Darlene Malco, teacher at Robert E. Lee. Madison Mills, teacher at Bowie Elementary. Monica Rodriguez, teacher at Victoria Walker Elementary.
Move to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Ms. Woods. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-4, 0 against.
We have administration will recommend also accepting of the resignations and retirements listed. Sharon Bryant, Sherry Flores, Doris Keith, and Sherry May.
Don't everybody jump at once.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Clem, second by Mr. Poppy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-4, 0 against. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
No.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Ben.
I have a motion by Mr. Woods, second by Mr. Poppy. Any discussion on the adjournment, Mr. Clem?
I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Oh, thank you. Motion passes 4-4, 0 against. Meeting closes at 8:37 p.m. Y'all have a beautiful evening.
Yeah, right.